Hi, this is Denise Matthew, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome to my channel. It's good to have you here. I hope everybody has started the new year on a good foot. So I just wanted to pop in really quick, and I just wanted to talk about a little bit about the lunar eclipse that's happening today. Not a total focus on it, because again, it's a moment in time, and the energies that I'm going to talk about today are mainly energies that we're going to be working with for the whole year. Of course, it's going to be from a human design perspective, because that's what I do. And so I'm going to talk about the gates, and I'm going to talk about sort of the themes that we could sort of see happening, and possibly some of the things that we might see as the year progresses. There seems to be a lot of fear around this conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. And although it is a big conjunction and it hasn't happened for a long time, I think that the energy of Pluto being in the in Capricorn in this area it's been there for quite a few months, and if not a year. So the energy of Pluto is going to stay where it is for the whole of 2020, and Saturn will be moving from just two gates. Now I'll get into that in just a second. Before I get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about the lunar eclipse that we're having today. Now the lunar eclipse is going to be right in the same area as a Pluto and Saturn conjunction. That's why people are saying it's going to be super powerful. So the whole thing about the lunar eclipse is it's going to be in the gate 53. So now the gate 53 is all about starting things, and it's all about beginning, but it's a cyclical energy because it's connected to the gate 42 and it makes a full channel. So it's more of an energy that needs to have a partner for it to sort of get where it needs to go. Now, if you don't have this energy in your body graph, you may not find this as a theme in your life. So you can start things in response to things, and there's not necessarily this whole idea of starting something and then not being able to get back to completing it, because that's the energy of this gate. When you have the moon in the gate 53 and there's an eclipse in that area, there's potential urge for people to want to start something new, and there could be an impulse to do it because it's activating the gate. The energy is quite strong because the gate is only half the gate, as I told you, and it works in tandem with the 42. The things that get started on impulse with this gate and not in response could very well sputter out and die. So it's not something that you want to start something impulsively. If you've been thinking about something, you've had all the ideas and planning ahead, that's completely fine. But just all of a sudden just saying, oh, okay, today I'm going to start something, that may not exactly work out as you planned. If we look at what's happening with Mars as well, so with the Mars finishing up in the gate 34, it's going to be an extra little oomph to this gate 53 energy, because there's a power behind it, this power to get things done. And again, the gate 34 is all about doing something in response. It's not about something that you just kind of manifest. It's not manifested energy. It's energy that comes from the sacral, which means that it needs to be in response. So when Mars moves into the gate 9 on January 11th, we're going to be dealing with that energy that we've been dealing with of pushy people for the last week, or maybe shoving people out of your way yourself. It will start to dissipate, and the new home will be in the gate 9. And the gate 9 is all about small details, or it could be obsessive behavior. So there's a tremendous amount of power in the gate 9. I mean, that's a really powerful gate, and it's the power of focus and being able to stick with something with small details. And with Mars providing energy for the gate 9, the key with this energy is all about directing the focus to the right things instead of just kind of doing a buckshot kind of scatter everywhere. So you want to focus it like the precision of an arrow that's reaching its target, as opposed to just scattering your energy. Now, if you work with it that way, you could get a lot done. So it's, in that respect, it's a very good energy. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the lunar eclipse, and that's the energies. And so they say with a lunar eclipse, it could be energies that stick with you for about 6 months. So what you start impulsively today could have repercussions for 6 months after. I mean, it really is hard to say exactly how it will work, but ultimately, if you feel like you've put in the work and things are in the right way and you've been responding, it should work out fine. So the gate 58 is considered the gate of joy, vitality, and in a nutshell, it's all about having a party and really not wanting to stop partying. I mean, the shadow side of it is not being satisfied, and it makes sense, because if we imagine that a party and a celebration will fill the void within us for a few moments, it does, but eventually the party ends and you have to go home, and whatever you've been avoiding or the things you've been trying to cover with that party are still going to be there. And it's not coincidental that the sun travels through the gate 58 during the holiday season, because the sun goes around the whole zodiac and all the gates in 365 days, and it spends a certain amount of time in each gate because it goes through the lines. After the sun goes through the gate 58, we get into the gate 38. And this is all the energy that we have sort of the holiday season, and then right after the holidays when everybody's going back to work. So we have the gate 38, and bam, we have fighting energy. And that's the high side. The high side is fighting the good fight, and picking the battles that are really worthwhile for you, because, sometimes we have to fight. That's part of life. But of course, the opposite is just lashing out at anybody and just because. And we know how that goes. I mean, it never works out the way we want it to work out when we're just lashing out. It's not focused energy, and it's not going to get us what we want. So then the sun moves into the gate of the energy of the 54 of ambition. And the reason why I'm going through these gates, there is a reason for it. So stick with me if you can, and I will show all the connections as we go along. So now like I said, the sun will go into the gate 54, and we're talking about in the January energy. We're talking about Capricorn energy. So the gate 54 is all about climbing the ladder to reach your goals, or the opposite would be undercutting people to reach your goals, or sitting on your laurels and raging against the system because things are not going your way, but really not doing anything to change your reality. So that's the energy of the gate 54 on the high side and the low side. Now I'm going to move on to the Saturn Pluto conjunction. Now, when we're talking about Saturn, we're talking about a planet that goes around the zodiac in approximately every 29 to 30 years. So the Saturn and Pluto conjunction happens about that often. So it's about every 29 to 30 years. Now, what's different about this, of course, is that it is in Capricorn, and this hasn't happened in a while. Now, when we talk about a conjunction, which everybody's talking about a conjunction, that's just a connection of the planets. Basically, they're side by side. And it's not common to happen, of course, in the specific sign. So I think the last time it happened was like 1518 or something like that, which was the Protestant Reformation. Now, the questions that come up when we have the gate 61 is why is my life the way it is? And, fill in the blanks of what's missing in your life. And there's always this pressure to figure out life, and where do we go to figure out things when we don't understand. I mean, a lot of us are drawn to some level of spirituality, could be religion, or some people are drawn to the scientific side of life and trying to explain the patterns of life and how it all works. So it's not by accident that spirituality, tarot, astrology, and all those channels that are on YouTube, including mine, usually have the highest volume of new subscribers in January, because people are generally looking for, what is the meaning of what I'm doing in this life, and why am I here kind of questions could come up. The scientific approach isn't as easy to track, but I'm sure there are people who are going the science route to figure out exactly what's happening, whatever kind of theories that they want to develop. Either way, it's a pattern that repeats, and this repeats sort of every December, January. Of course, we're not all the same, and everybody's going to have a different chart, and everybody's going to get connected with in a different way based on your chart. And we're not hardwired in the same way. We all have different feelings of what matters to us, and some people will have those passing thoughts of what does it all mean and why, and they don't really care. They're not going to focus on it. But then other people will get lost in their head, and it will become a theme or something that's actually preventing them from moving through life because they're so stuck in their head. So then after we move through the gate 61, we move to the gate 60. And this is a gate of limitation. And just a word strikes a chord of irritation. And most people will say, I don't want to be limited. I don't want any limitation in my life. But let's be honest. The truth is, we need to have some level of rules in our reality, because if we don't, chaos would ensue. We need something. Otherwise, can you imagine if everybody was contributing something, or everybody was trying to start something up, and they're all doing it at the same time? And so we would have these real important inventions or these really important things would be discovered, but we wouldn't know because it literally would be in a sea of all these new things. So why do we have rules? There's rules because we need to see the important things, the things that will work, because not everything that we want to try or do is going to work. It's just it's the nature of mutative energy, and the gate 60 is all about mutative energy. So if you can see limitation as a way that we as a humanity need to organize our lives so that we can actually continue as a species, well, then it makes a lot more sense. There can be a pushing against the system, and because of this limitation, I mean, there's always going to be a dark side to limitation, and the dark side is that people don't want to have limits, but not only that, that the powers that be will make more limitations, will make more rules, will try and make the people conform to what they want them to conform to. So you could have this real energy of you're going to do what I want you to do, and you're not going to have a choice in doing anything else. So there can be pushing against the system, like I said, and you want your own way, and it makes sense. Why not? Because if someone's pushing against you, it's human nature and instinct to push back. The difference between this January and other Januaries is that, unlike other Januaries, the energy of the Capricorn, this energy will dissipate quite quickly because we have Mercury and Venus and also the Sun passing through all these gates, and they pass through fairly quickly. This year is different because we have Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and the South Node all firmly ensconced in Capricorn, and they will be hanging out there for pretty much the whole year. And what's kind of interesting in this is that last time that we had this Pluto Saturn conjunction in 1518, was the conjunction was of course in a different place in Capricorn, and it was in a different gate, and the gate was gate 58. And I think it's kind of interesting and kind of synchronistic how the gate 58 is where the South Node, or the what they call past karma, or past or past lives, or whatever you want to say, is actually transiting through the gate 58. So I think that's kind of cool. That's just an aside. So Saturn will pretty much stay between the gate 61 and the gate 60. It'll go between Capricorn. It'll dip into Aquarius, but as far as it goes in Aquarius, because some of the human design gates straddle two signs. In other words, they start on one side and they finish in another. Like, for instance, the gate 60 goes between Capricorn and Aquarius. So ultimately, Saturn will stay between the gate 61 and the gate 60 for the whole year. So not only will Saturn be transiting the gate 61 and the gate 60, we also have Jupiter that's going to be transiting pretty much all the gates of Capricorn as well. We also have Mars that will be joining the party, and that'll be joining the party in February. So once again, there's an activation of the gates of January. So it really is a prevalent energy that we're going to be experiencing for the whole of 2020. So no matter what way you're looking at it, you're going to be dealing with the themes of January for the whole year. And also, if you have any planets that are making connections to your own chart, in the way that you have the gates 58, 38, 61, or 60 defining your chart, or if you have hanging gates 18, 28, 24, or 3 defining your chart, you could feel it as well. There are other ways you could feel it as well, but I don't want to get it too complicated. I mean, that's more of an astrology thing, and you'd have to sort of figure out where your planets are, and there's lots of astrology videos out there to be able to link that up. So if you add in other planets, we already have this energy of the Capricorn energy, of like a lot of Capricorn energy, activating all the gates of Capricorn. And then we have planets like Uranus in the gates 27, which is nurturing, and gate 24 as well for half of the year. And that's a gate of rationalization. And when we talk about Uranus, we're always talking about an energy that is not of the norm, or an energy that is kind of unusual. So we're going to have unusual ways of nurturing and rationalizing maybe some unusual ways of things that are happening. Those are potentials. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We also have Neptune, and Neptune is going to be transiting the gate 63, doubt and suspicion, and also the gate 22, grace or not. So those are going to add their own emphasis to the year. So if we understand not necessarily the motivations, but understand that this is energy, and being able to take it as it is rather than taking it as a personal attack, or taking it as, having fear thrown into it because you really don't know what's going on. Like, having some clue of what's going on can definitely help us, because it can kind of give us a map of what we can kind of expect. it's impossible to completely predict everything that's going to happen and what events will happen, but just knowing the kinds of themes and the energy that might be prevalent will certainly help us to kind of to maneuver and, traverse through the year. So it is going to be a very pivotal year, a year where we really are coming to, that bubble where it begins, where it pops. And I think that the bubble will pop at the end of the year. And as I said, Jupiter will cycle through all the gates of Capricorn throughout the year. So there's times when the energy of certain gates will blow up. And I mean, because Jupiter is all about expansion. It's a larger than life planet. And Jupiter doesn't really pick and choose if they consider it good or bad. It's like, it just gets bigger. So if it's something that's not nice, it could get bigger. And, there's potential for that. It's a positive planet for sure, but the expansion just it can be too much of a good thing. And some people say too much of a good thing is a great thing. I don't know if that's necessarily true. So being self-aware and recognizing this energy is definitely going to help. So the question is, if we have all this energy that could be a little bit uncomfortable, or, for some people, a lot of uncomfortable for 2020, how do we mitigate it? Well, there is a North Node, and it's the complete opposite of Capricorn. It's in Cancer, and it's going to be going over or traveling through the gate 52. Now, the gate 52 is all about stillness. And so, my feeling is that in 2020, yoga, mindfulness, and meditation might be something that's important. And it might be a topic that you hear more about, and more people are actually getting into yoga or getting into mindfulness or getting into meditation because they need something to sort of I guess, smooth out all the fray edges that they definitely can show up when you have a lot of this energy that's kind of pressure. And you have Saturn and Pluto. I mean, those are pretty heavy duty planets that could be really pushing hard on us all. What are some other themes that we might see? Well, we could potentially see a resurgence of the climate change theme. And yes, there was a big theme of climate change and the rise of Greta Thunberg and all the headlines for about the second half of 2019. Looking at March 2020, the potential for you to see this climate change theme rise up again. And because it's going to be in the gate 15 is all about humanity, but it's also about extremes and extremes in behavior. So could we see potentially some extremes in behavior in the name of climate change as the year goes on after March 2020 and thereafter? Who knows? That's something that we could watch out for. Now, with Uranus traveling through the gate 27, we might also see alternative ways of nurturing, like I said. And it's alternative ways of nurturing ourselves and others. And it could also be a rise of unusual foods. And I think we've already seen something like that with this rise of these, a lot of vegan burgers, impossible foods, and Beyond Burgers. So let's see, that's a potential that we might see even more expansion in that area, or these unusual things coming to the forefront and unusual ways of getting our nutrition. Neptune has been transiting the gate 63 since about 2017. And I think it really was consistent with the rise of the body positivity movement, because the whole thing about the gate 63 is it's all about doubt and suspicion, but it can also be this whole level of self-doubt. So when we have something in Neptune, we have something that's dissolving. So Neptune is all about dissolving. And if we think about dissolving self-doubt, then we could have this whole idea of this body positivity movement. Now, not everybody's a part of that, but I mean, I think that we're not always going to be affected by every single energy that's out there planetarily. Some people will have it more than others. So in February, this energy of the gate 63 being transited by Neptune will happen until February. And then going forward from that, we have Neptune moving into the gate 22. Now, the gate 22 is all about this grace and charm, or not. And how can that show up in the world? Well, let's look at maybe seeing some cracks in the illusions of perfection, because grace is about perfection. It's about looking good. It's about being charming. It's about having the perfect life. And our definition of beauty and grace might change. It might become more of a natural thing, because we're talking about some dissolving of the illusions of the gate 22. So we've had a big rise in the makeup industry, and we've had a big rise in social media where people are portraying perfect lives when in fact it's nothing not even close to the truth. So is there possibility that we will see less of these perfect lives and we'll see a more realistic perspective of these so-called Instagram, perfect lives, and maybe we will see the real world behind them. So that's something that is something to think about, and maybe we'll see a rise of the authentic self and a decrease in fakeness. We could hope for that, because I think that that's been a really a hard thing for a lot of people to experience, these so-called perfect lives, and just really wanting to have that and not being able to have it. And I think this whole reality of expressing, this is the real truth of what I'm living, and in people kind of relating to that, rather than this whole idea of the extravagance of being in just the most amazing and perfect life, which really there is no perfect life. So if we move on to Pluto, as I said, is going to remain in the gate 61. And this is, when you're looking at a global perspective, we could talk about the gate 61 is, we would say that it's all about the separation of religion and science, and how we both how some people will be drawn, like I mentioned earlier, to the religious side, and some people will be drawn to the scientific side. Now, with Pluto, it's all about bringing down everything down to the foundation and rebuilding. So there could be new religions that will come up, as well as old ones coming down. How does that look? I don't know. Potential, as well as scientific theories being debunked. Things that we thought were real being shown that they weren't real. So from this debunking and this change, we have new things building up. And let's see, Saturn will be transiting the 61 for the first half of the year. And this is about people digging in. Now, Saturn is about structure. It's about status quo. It's about keeping what we already have and not changing. It's about, my people and not your people, in the separation. So there's potential for this whole idea of, it's my religion and you're not part of it, and this separation, and also holding on to my beliefs and holding on to what has always been, because that's what we want. And so there's going to be a definite pull and push energy, because we have Pluto is trying to rip it down, and then we have Saturn saying, no, this is the structure. So you could see some real diversity in how things are expressing themselves in the whole religious scientific perspective. And religion, I think, has been a big theme that has grown over the last couple of years, and how that all plays out, we will see. Then we have Saturn going into the gate 60, and now we're moving into the energy of limitation, which we talked about before. Now, the thing about limitation is, when you have Saturn there, the limitation gets very limiting, because again, Saturn is about the government and any type of movement that wants to maintain the status quo. This energy is going to have a rise, and there's going to be culmination this year. So when you see the government making rules and things changing, and power being grabbed, and you beat your rights, or like things being restricted and limited, well, remember that this is when the bubble is ready to pop, expands to the expansion that it can go, and then it pops. The culmination of the year, or the very end of the year, will be when Jupiter and Saturn meet up in early Aquarius. And this is when you see the finale of the year. This is when you see the Saturn energies and the Jupiter energy. This is when the limitations, they're both in gate 60. And this is when the limitations become astronomical. This is when everything is just at the breaking point, and then the energy just pops and shifts, and then we go into the gate 41. Now, this is called the gate of the dreamer, and this is where fantasies become reality. Now, if we have Saturn in the gate 41, it's not all easy. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but at least you have some potential to start to see something in the energy of something different. I mean, it's going to be something different that we haven't seen in a while. And, Saturn is going to be playing with that energy. And in 2021, we also have Pluto shifting back and forth between the gate 61 and the gate 60. So we already had this holding on to this energy. You have Saturn moving away from the limiting energy of trying to hold on to the limiting energy. And then you have Pluto coming in, and Pluto is going to start to change these limitations, bring them down to the foundation, and build something new. And will those limitations be something that the people will be happier with? We don't know, but they'll be transformed and quite possibly obliterated, and a new forms will come in their foundation. So that's a lot of information, and I know I kind of unloaded a lot on you, but it's a whole year. And again, you might have to watch this video a few times, and I will definitely make some timestamps so that you can try and figure it out. But I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the energy. And yes, we're going to have a Pluto Saturn conjunction exactly on January, and it will be an exact on January 12th, on January 12th. But having said that, these energies will be with us for the whole year. So let's just settle in, do what we can, get through this year. And I really do believe, based on just the human design itself, as well as, you know, a little bit of astrology pushed in there, I do believe that we will have a huge difference and change coming forward in 2021. I will come back and do some little blurbs on some other things that will be happening, because in 2020, we're going to have a Mars retrograde. We're going to also have a Venus retrograde. And of course, we're always going to have the Mercury retrograde. And there's also a Pluto-Jupiter conjunction that's going to come up as well. So those will be videos for another day, because I think I have unloaded a lot. And that's all for now. And I hope you have a good eclipse and a good year ahead. Take care. Bye for now.